So just when you were thinking that all the action, all the interesting things that are happening in cricket, let me tell you, hockey is quite a buzzword now, and there's lots of stuff happening. I have two Sandeeps with me who are both experts in their area, Sandeep Mishra, Sandeep Nakai. Very warm welcome to both of you. And before I even get into the discussion, let me tell you that Yannick Schockman, the former Indian women's hockey coach, she was on the same flight from Bhubaneswar to Delhi. Mr. Sandeep Mishra had an interview with her, and according to Sandeep, she ordered an Americano, which became cold by the time she finished saying what she did. So, would you, Sandeep, try another Americano with Elena Norman, who's also resigned?
Oh
Yes,
yeah,
but
I
I
would
think
love to.
she's on his way. She's on his way to her way to Australia now
Is she?
for a vacation.
I mean, do you think that?
Well,
Do you
that's
think
what
that
all
will
the
be
statements she's saying, that I'm going home for a break. I haven't been home. Well, everybody deserves a good break.
Okay.
But is she going to come back after the break is the big question because I think there's a lot of rumor. I think Nakai can also probably put his point of view here is that a lot of people are also saying that there is going to be a kind of a churn that's going to happen after the court hearings and all of that, and then maybe the same Hockey India under different people, probably with the same president, is probably going to call Alina back. I think that's also a very solid rumor that's floating around.
I don't know. We can't deliberate too much on the rumors, but if there's gonna be churn, whether she'll be part of the churn or this is part of the churn, now that she is put in her papers, what are the reasons? She hasn't said that. She said it was a tough working atmosphere, but it was a tough working atmosphere since Hockey India board was suspended, and it's been more than 1.5 years since then. So saying it now, I don't think so. Of course, she made a few comments about how the power equations within Hockey India were working, which was quite surprising for somebody who's worked there for so long. Whether it was a deliberate or off the cuff remark, I don't know. That is probably what prompted the Hockey India bosses, the Secretary General and the President, to come out and issue a joint statement yesterday. So there is a lot happening. I'm sure there's a lot of rift.
What I want to, the way I want to steer this conversation is, and there are so many strands, so we'll try and bring in as many as we can within the time constraints. So first, let's talk about Shopman. Ever since Sandeep Mishra interviewed her and it became viral, and a lot of the other media picked up those strands. So she made a couple of very interesting points there. She was pretty unhappy with the way Rani Rampal had reacted, and she basically said that Rani Rampal did not want India to succeed. So that is point number one. Two, the way she had been ill-treated by the Hockey Federation, which was a clear-cut dig at Bholanath. And she said that my mails were ignored. They won't even look at me. They won't even respond. And the third point is, it wasn't the trigger, that the Indian women's hockey team could not qualify for the Paris Olympics. Was that the immediate and the worst trigger possible? What do you gentlemen think?
Sandeep, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's a trigger. I honestly, I just don't buy this whole argument कि if, India अगर qualify कर गया होता तो all of this we would have been seeing. I don't think we would have seen anything. I don't even think, that statement of Bholanath in the Indian Express, Ami's copy today when I was reading it in the morning and I was figuring, those questions, the answers were very small, which also goes to say that there's nothing much for Bholanath to say actually at this point. But for him to say that, मुझे मालूम था कि इंडिया क्वालिफाई नहीं करेगा, नहीं मालूम था तो उस समय बोल दिया होता. अगर आप सेक्रेटरी हैं और अगर आपको लगता है कि एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में कुछ गड़बड़ हो रही है, कुछ कोचिंग में प्रॉब्लम्स चल रही हैं, आपने बोल दिया होता. और अगर आज इंडिया क्वालिफाई कर गया होता, मुझे नहीं लगता भोलानाथ ने कहा होता कि मैंने तब सोचा था क्वालिफाई नहीं करेंगे और अब क्वालिफाई कर रहे हैं, तो इसलिए मुझे आज शॉपमैन को हक करना चाहिए. मुझे नहीं लगता कि वो इन सब कामों में he's that kind of a guy, because at the end of the day you still, I think Nakai's seen this hockey federation when it was IHF. He's seen it much before I came onto the scene as a journalist, and I think he's seen it from the time of Inder Mohan Mahajan and all of that. I saw it from Prasad's time, and when when you use the word churn, I think the middle name of Hockey India or Indian Hockey Federation is always churn. It keeps happening every 3, 4 years. Something or the other will always happen. Still, you will have a team. Still, you will have those ebbs and the highs and the lows and all of that. So it's something that I think we have all got used to. But that doesn't mean that whatever is happening now shouldn't be nipped in the bud. I think this is the right time to nip it in the bud.
I think you're giving them a lot of credit that the churning is happening every 3 or 4 years. I think the churning happens every 3 months. There's some churning or the other, whether it's within the federation or with the coaches or within the teams. The statement of the women's coach about Rani Rampal was very, very surprising. How did she expect her to react? Well, she was the star player of India for the last whole decade. Whether it came to there's no penalty corner taker, she'll come in and take penalty corners. She'll be the game maker. She'll be also the goal scorer. So from that situation, suddenly after an injury, uh, which she says she's recovered from, or there's no medical evidence that she has not recovered, she's dropped from the team altogether and not given. Doesn't get a look in, doesn't get a leeway to even prove her credentials. So she's obviously going to react that way. It's surprising that the former captains, starting with 2016 Olympics, 2016 just before the Olympics, another Rani, she was the captain of the Indian team, and she was dropped from the Olympic Games. And the then coach says, "Well, now what difference does it make? If she goes, we'll finish 10th. If she doesn't play, we'll finish 12th." No, these are the sort of coaches we bring in. I'm very surprised how Hockey India works with selection of especially women's coaches. Of course, what they did with one of the women's coaches by switching him from women's to men, and then when he did not succeed, switch him back to the women's. That was surprising. Some of the comments she says, I did not get a look in, and people did not even notice my contribution or whatever when I was an assistant coach. Well, who remembers the assistant coach in within Indian hockey? Do we remember who the women assistant coaches were when we India won the bronze medal in the Olympic Games? No, the focus is always on the coach. But yes, when she became the chief coach, she got all the attention that she deserved or she should have got. I can understand her comments about Hockey India officials not responding. This is nothing new. This is how Hockey India works. This is how amateur sports federations, at least in a country, work.
मैं आप दोनों से एक ये पॉइंट पे आना चाहता हूँ जो थोड़ा सा हो सकता है गूगली लगे, लेकिन क्या फर्क पड़ता है? आई एम द लीस्ट, आई नो द लीस्ट अबाउट हॉकी, सो आई एम एंटाइटल्ड टू आस्क ऑल माय क्वेश्चंस. सो अब जैसे रेसलिंग में आप ले लीजिए, बृजभूषण शरण सिंह एक विलेन बन गया, मतलब वो बिल्कुल ही वो 70 और 80 के दशक का विलेन बन गया, मोगैम्बो बन गया, और दुनिया भर के उस पे एलिगेशन लगे हैं. वो एक अलग कहानी है. क्या हॉकी में अब वो स्टेटस भोलानाथ के वो सहरा उनके सिर पे डाला जा रहा है कि इस ई आदमी की वजह से ये सारी दिक्कतें हुई हैं, ये इल ट्रीट करता है कोचेस को, ये उनकी तरफ वो रिस्पॉन्ड नहीं करता? तो अगर सब कुछ भोलानाथ ही गलत कर रहा है, ये यहाँ वहां घूमता है जिसके बारे में दिलीप तिर्की को कुछ पता ही नहीं होता या दिलीप तिर्की रोक नहीं सकते, असलियत क्या है कि भोलानाथ इज अ लूज कैनन, he's all on his own, he's fighting on his own, and is he the main villain and everybody else is dyed in wool?
Well, either the president or the secretary will be depicted as the villain, as situation stands. In this case, Turkey being seen as a nice guy, he is actually quite a polite guy. He does not even raise his voice, and even on the field, he would never even try and sledge the opponents. So that sort of an image and that sort of a behavior. So obviously, he will. The target will be Bolanath Singh. So and well, Bholanath coming from wrestling, being a wrestler himself and a wrestling official before he switched his attention to hockey, which keeps happening in our part of the world. Uh, he has also not tried to project an image or come out openly and say things that would endear him to everybody. So this is a catch-22 situation for Indian hockey.
Okay, Sandeep.
No, he's an outgoing guy. There is no doubt about that. He's also somebody who kind of tries to endear himself. If I can just pick that word of what Nakil said, that he does try to endear himself. He tries to get into other meetings. He tries to meet the players. He, I think, has a very, very whatever I have learned a little, has a very, very good relationship with the FI's president now, and the president keeps calling him and doesn't call Dilip. But one has to understand Dilip's nature and one has to understand Bholanath's nature. Dilip is not of the kind that, अब मैं HI president हूँ, कल मैं FI president बनूंगा, फिर यहाँ बनूंगा, फिर वहां बनूंगा. He's not that type. He's not somebody who thinks in leaps and bounds. He looks after a certain thing and then he works around it. And that's what he has been constantly saying. Whether he says it on the record or whether he says it off the record, he does maintain that there is a line I need to follow. This is a process I need to follow. I don't think the word process really falls into Bholanath's plate. Honestly, it doesn't. He's a kind of a guy who will just walk into a press conference even if he's not invited, sit there, crack a joke, get up, walk away. A lot of the journals are going to laugh, and and that's what also makes him a popular person. But I think somewhere ambition, aspiration probably crossed the line, and he wanted a lot of stuff for himself, and he saw that Dilip was a soft guy, so why not crowd him out? I'm using the word crowd him out, and I think that's what probably happened, and it's kind of boomerang because you want to go for a long time in this particular field, in this particular federation. I think you need to have the coaches on your side. You also need to understand that today's coaching scenario is not what we saw 20 years back or even 10 years back. It's highly professional.
भैया
But
आप
but
लोगों की
but, but,
बातों
the,
से
but the comment he made about I knew Indian hockey women's team will not qualify. That is an uncalled for comment. He could have restrained himself from doing that. So he
But
seems to be making a lot of impetuous statements.
But he did that. He did that, Nafi, in at the Asian Games also. I mean, right after we lost that China match in the semi-final, he said to a couple of journalists, and a lot of other people were in earshot when he said that, "अरे भाई ये coach को कौन लेके आया है?" So, the moment a secretary comes out of his zone and steps, it's almost like, you having a fullback who only wants to play center forward and score goals. Hey, you are the fullback. The only chance you will ever get to score goals is either you are a Germanpreet who goes up or you are a Harmanpreet who gets penalty corners. Otherwise, stay in your position. Why are you constantly coming out and shooting your mouth off? And I think
But he
that's
likes to
probably
play the
cost.
overlapping game. He likes to play the overlapping game.
चलिए आप लोगों की बातें सुन के मतलब वो बहुत अब आप टेक्निकलिटीज और मामला संजीदा कर रहे हैं। मैं कहीं हवा का रुख बदलता हूँ। तो एक बार ये हुआ इंसिडेंट दर्शकों के लिए कि एलिना नॉर्मन थी सीईओ तब, और मनप्रीत एक ऐसे इंक्लोजर में चले गए हमारे हॉकी के कप्तान जहां उन्हें नहीं जाना चाहिए था, ठीक है। और उसके बाद जितना मुझे पता है एलिना नॉर्मन ने कहा व्हाट आर यू डूइंग हियर, यू शुड फक ऑफ। नाउ Sandeep Mishra had an insider's view on that, which he will talk. First point is, did she say fuck off to the Indian captain? अगर और जहां तक मुझे पता है ऐसा कहा गया और वो ह्यूमिलिएट हुए। एक साउंड बाइट भी है, तो आप लोगों से बातचीत करने के पहले वो साउंड बाइट में लगाऊंगा। लेकिन सबसे मुझे जो अचंभे की बात लगी कि किसी के इतना दम होता कि वो विराट कोहली को कहता फक ऑफ। So let's listen to that bite first. वो मनप्रीत से ये पूछा गया उस प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में जहां हैरी सर उनके बगल में बैठे हुए हैं, कोच। आइए सुनते हैं क्या हुआ।
तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं था, क्योंकि एक्चुअली ये हमारी गलती थी थोड़ी सी, क्योंकि जो प्लेयर्स को तो यहाँ पे लाव नहीं था उनको ऊपर लॉन्च में आने के लिए, क्योंकि जो भी सभी टीम्स हैं सभी को लाव नहीं था कि यहाँ पे लॉन्च में आने के लिए। तो हम लोग आए, ये थोड़ी हमारी गलती थी। तो बट उसके बाद अगर देखा जाए तो ऐसा कुछ ज़्यादा बात नहीं हुई, बट ज़्यादा बात बढ़ा दी गई है कि कल रात थी बात। उसके बाद मुझे सुबह याद भी नहीं था, बट मॉर्निंग में जब इतने इतने बड़े मैसेज आने लगे कि हाँ कि फेसबुक पे इतना बड़ा डाल दिया, जो बात हुई भी नहीं है। तो कहीं ना कहीं ये चीज़ भी होनी चाहिए, जो रियली हुआ है वही डालो, है ना। तो क्या हुआ, फेसबुक पे देखा आधी बातें तो वो चिपका दी जो हुई भी नहीं थी। तो इसीलिए था कि हाँ कि हमारी गलती थी कि हमें वहाँ पे नहीं होना चाहिए था। बट उसके बाद सर दबाव किसी ने कृपान तो रखी नहीं मेरे सिर पे यहाँ पे। सर ऐसा कुछ नहीं है कोई, अरे सर नाम प्रेशर कोई नहीं है, ठीक है। क्या ऐसा कोई भी नहीं है कि हाँ मेरे ऊपर कोई प्रेशर डाल रहा है, कुछ नहीं। ये पर्सनली हमारा जो प्लेयर्स थे हम लोग, वो हमारी पर्सनली मिस्टेक थी कि हम लोग वहाँ पे नहीं होना चाहिए था। तो ऐसा नहीं कि हाँ कि किसी ने हमें बोला है कि जहाँ कुछ ये बोलना है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है। मेरी एलेना के साथ जो अभी बोल रहे हैं उसके साथ पर्सनली कोई बात नहीं थी, ना कोई इशू था। उसके बाद हम लोगों ने अच्छा, अगर मैं फ़ोन लाया होता तो आपको दिखा भी देता कि हम लोग की रेगुलर बात हुई है ऐसा। हाँ, कोई इशू नहीं था, ट्रस्ट मी कि ऐसा कोई इशू नहीं था कि हाँ कि जितना बड़ा बनाया गया है तो थोड़ा सा था कि वो कोई ज़्यादा बात नहीं थी। हम लोग एटलीस्ट हम लोग अच्छे, वो मेरे कलीग हैं और वो हम काम करते हैं तो अब अच्छा रिलेशन है। उसके बाद भी हम लोग बात किए, फ़ोन पे भी बात हुई, तो ऐसा कोई भी ज़्यादा इशू नहीं था।
So
The diplomat, the diplomat.
this is from the archive footage that we have from that press conference. I think it was taken in 2018. Gentlemen, your reactions.
The diplomat that Manpreet is, no doubt he is now heading to play fourth Olympic Games. But in that situation, what could he have done? He couldn't have, ahead of India's going to be playing the quarterfinals. You couldn't have a go at the CEO of the National Federation. But I think it was the 2018 World Cup in the lounge, which was adjacent to the media box or media enclosure. He was lucky not many people were there, or she was lucky not many people were there. But maybe she was the wrong adjective. It should have been get lost instead of the efforts.
मिश्रा जी क्या कहेंगे?
No, I was in a way directly involved. I was the what do you call? I mean, I was looking after the media on behalf of the state government at that point of time, and whatever happened was terrible. Manpreet says that हमारी गलती थी। अरे भाई, आप कप्तान हो, आप एक नेशनल टीम के कप्तान हो जो वर्ल्ड कप खेल रहा है, और उस लाउंज में क्या हो रहा था? कोई शराब तो नहीं बन रही थी ना? उस लाउंज में तो यही था ना कि फॉर्मर प्लेयर्स थे, अजीत पाल सिंह, जफर इकबाल, एम सुमैया। आई मीन, यू कैन जस्ट रील ऑफ द नेम्स, ऑल ऑफ देम वर सिटिंग देयर. So what Manpreet did was he saw them from the outside of the lounge, which is the basic gallery where players usually come and sit and watch a game. And he saw all these players in. He just came in to just say hello to all these players. I mean, a captain is coming to say hello to former captains who are not only captains, who are virtually iconic figures in Indian hockey. And then suddenly the CEO comes and she says that, what the hell are you doing here? Fuck off from here. And just imagine if this would have happened. आप तो विराट कोहली बहुत दूर चले गए, आप सुनील छेत्री के साथ करके दिखा दो आप मुझे ये, उसके बाद आप देखो क्या हल्ला होता है. लेकिन बात वो भी नहीं है. बात ये है कि आपको वो पावर, इफ यू कांट हैंडल पावर, आई थिंक दैट बिकम्स अ वेरी बिग इशू व्हिच यू कैन सी विद भोलानाथ नाउ. यू जस्ट नॉट एबल टू हैंडल पावर. हम लोग कहते हैं ना कि कई लोग के पास बहुत जल्दी पैसा आता है तो वो पैसा हैंडल नहीं कर पाते हैं, इधर उधर हो जाते हैं. कई प्लेयर्स के ऊपर भी हम कहते हैं. लेकिन मुझे लगता है कई एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर्स के साथ यही प्रॉब्लम है. एंड दैट इज द बेसिक डिफरेंस. अगेन आई एम कमिंग बैक टू द पॉइंट, दैट इज द बेसिक डिफरेंस between a Dilip Tirki and a Bholanath. A Dilip Tirki knows that if he takes a decision after 2 days, he doesn't take immediate decisions because he wants to think about it. He wants to go through a process. Bhola is not the guy. I don't think his life has been like that. It's more about चलो यार हो अल्लाह कर लो, कुछ कर लो, and अरे अभी कर लेते हैं, अभी क्यों नहीं करेंगे, अभी ला लो, अभी साइन कर देते हैं. This is not the way. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think there must have been instances in the past that Naki would know. I think even during Mahajan's time or even during Prasad's time, there have been bloopers that are probably bigger than this.
Yes, I'm sure there were bloomers bigger than this. He is more impetuous. I think he likes to get on with the job. But, when you're the Secretary General, maybe the impetuosity doesn't work. But there have always been some official or the other who would cause a problem for the more sober officials. So it's not unusual in Indian hockey, and I don't think we'll be the last one.
Okay.
And and the other point is that for the first time ever, you've had a hockey player, and not only a hockey player, a virtual legend in his own right, an Olympic captain as the president of Hockey India. And though suddenly there is an imbalance, the secretary who says that मैं wrestling का coach हूँ तो coaching का process तो वही होता है. तो भाई अगर कोचिंग का वही प्रोसेस होता है तो फिर अब शॉपमैन के लिए आप क्यों ढूंढ रहे हैं? आप खुद ही बन जाइए. फिर आपको अगर मालूम था कि इंडिया क्वालिफाई नहीं करेगा, उसका यही मतलब है कि आपको बिल्कुल मालूम है इनसाइट्स क्या है हॉकी के अंदर की टीम को क्या चाहिए, तो आप खुद ही बन जाइए. अगले एशिया कप तक बन जाइए, एशिया कप जिता के वर्ल्ड कप क्वालिफाई करवा दीजिए, अगले वर्ल्ड कप तक बन जाइए. अगर यही बोलना है आपने, और आपने अगर यही कहना है कि कोच का कोई मतलब नहीं है, मुझे तो सब चीजें आती हैं, So you might as well had a whole range of KPS Gill coaches, Jyoti Kumaran coaches, Inder Mohan Mahajan coaches, R Prasad coaches. अभी जो भी आप नाम लेते रहो करते रहो, एम रामास्वामी तक ले जाओ 75 वर्ल्ड कप. बलवीर ने नहीं जिताया और किसी ने नहीं जिताया, एमएम ने जिताया फिर.
Okay. Going back to Elena Norman, now she remained as the CEO of Hockey India for the last 13 years. And while exiting, she gave a statement, and in fact, a written statement where she said that hockey currently is divided into two camps. एक और दिलीप तिर्की साहब हैं, एक और भोलानाथ साहब हैं. और आप लोगों की बातों से साफ जाहिर है कि दोनों का ऑपरेटिंग स्टाइल बिल्कुल अलग है. तो हाँ, क्या दर्शकों को आप ये बताएंगे कि हॉकी अब दो खेमों में बंट गया है, एक और दिलीप तिर्की, एक और भोलानाथ, और अगर ऐसा है तो हॉकी पे क्या असर पड़ेगा?
देखिए, दो खेमों में बट गया है हॉकी इंडिया या उनका टॉप बॉस एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. ये कोई नई बात नहीं है. हम ये काफी समय से, 1-1.5 साल से जब से इलेक्शन हुए हैं, मालूम पड़ रहा है. उससे पहले सिर्फ एक खेमा था, मिस्टर नरेंद्र बत्रा एंड हिज टीम. सो इनफैक्ट जो स्टेट एसोसिएशन थी उनका भी रेलेवेंस खत्म हो गया था, उनका ऑलमोस्ट एग्जिस्टेंस ही खत्म हो गया था. लेकिन उससे पहले ड्यूरिंग केपीएस गिल्स टाइम, of course, Jyoti Kumar used to do his own thing and then get Mr. KPS Gill to sign on those papers. Sir, ये plan है, इस पे आप agree कीजिए, because I've taken the decision at the moment required it. ये situation ऐसे ही चलती रहेगी, लेकिन ये written statement नहीं थी यार. I think कहीं से ये mix up है उसमें. ये
I
किसी
think she
interview में
mentioned it
या
on
तो
social media. She mentioned it on social media. That's how we all saw it.
Okay. Well, I'm not a great social media follower, but
आप फॉलो नहीं,
एक
आपका तो एक्स पे अकाउंट नहीं है, तो आप कैसे फॉलो करेंगे?
yeah, I try to keep some part of my sanity going by staying away from the social media a lot. अच्छा, मुझे मालूम था कि she made this comment to a national news agency और ये उसमें से उतर है. But ठीक है, सच्चाई बोल दी है, उसमें क्या हर्ज है. और we generally should appreciate कि किसी ने आके ऑन रिकॉर्ड बोल दिया जो हमें ऑफ द रिकॉर्ड सुनने को मिलता है. तो दो खेमों में हॉकी एडमिशन बटा हुआ है, ना तो ये कोई ताजुब है, और हमें शुक्रगुजार होना चाहिए कि सिर्फ दो खेमे हैं.
ओके. एक और इंटरेस्टिंग पॉइंट है जिसपे मैं हमारी बातचीत को ले जाना चाहता हूँ. दैट नाउ, and I'm just going to quote this from a Hindustan Times report, so that I'm very, very specific, because this is legal. Now, days before resigning, Elena Norman had filed an affidavit before the Delhi High Court refuting allegations of inaction and impropriety leveled against her in the inquiry report on misconduct. And in this report, inquiry officer, while rendering findings of financial irregularities against HI, had observed that Norman looked the other way and had also imputed to her responsibility of taking decisions regarding finance or procurement proposal and selection of internal auditors. मतलब साफ शब्दों में जो इंक्वायरी ऑफिसर है उसने ये आरोप लगाया नॉर्मन पे कि ये जब भी फाइनेंशियल फाइल या जो भी मूवमेंट रही है ये दूसरी तरफ देखती थी. So, gentlemen, my point is that the CEO has to take responsibility whether you're signing or you're not signing, because ultimately your approval or your signature has to be there on a particular proposal before it moves. Am I correct in assuming that?
You go first.
I think so. I mean, like in the sense that yes, on technically the CEO takes charge, but I think a lot of stuff in Hockey India before now and also probably in the future is that you normally get away by saying that it is Hockey India president or its secretary that need to sign off on all the financial, whether it is to buy infrastructure, whether it is to sign off on coaches, whether it is national championships or whatever. And I think that's where the CEO can probably I wouldn't say get away, but she can always push that responsibility onto the Hockey India president or secretary that these are the papers. I advise them this is what needs to be done. At the end of the day, it is that signature that matters, which is the Liptik signature. So I think in a way she'll probably get away from it. I don't think she can be in the thick of it. Probably much less than what we feel of the HI president or the secretary.
Uh, this inquiry report, I have not seen it yet. Okay, I don't know if it is already public, the conduct, or it was only sent to them for reactions. Uh, there are two things. एक तो हमारी सारी federations में जहाँ पे if you have a president and you have a secretary used to be the de facto CEO, right? Now federations are bringing in CEOs, but some of them are also electing secretaries. So there is bound to be a big conflict between the roles. Okay, and then what is the parameters and what is the procedure? Whether the CEO is only the signing authority or issuing checks after getting directives or notings from the secretary and president, that depends to be seen. So if that was the case, then it is very easy to deny any responsibility, and the responsibility rests with people who have actually approved the signing amount. However, in any inquiry, any case, allegations are put upon somebody, he or she has to deny it in the first go. So we yet to see what decision comes out of it, of the forensic audit and the reports thereafter that the court and the government is going to summon and take action upon.
Okay, let me end this show with two questions which have come in. One says that we heard HIL is coming back and Dhoni is also buying a team. I'm quite sure he has enough money to buy teams after so many Hayabusas in his backyard. Now, do you think with these allegations, Hockey India can do it? कुछ बोलेंगे आप लोग?
Yeah, of course you can do it. I mean, why not? I mean, listen, I mean, we don't even know till the time the HIL probably begins, which is after the Paris Olympics. The window is around November, December, January, February, and could easily seep into the early part of 2025. By then, what happens in the HIL? What happens with the secretary? What happens with the president? At this point of time, we can only think this might happen or that might happen. But technically, yes, HI is confident of not only 8 teams, they're confident of 12 teams. So I think it should not be a problem to get anybody who's owner, who's willing to put up that money and get past the technical bit that goes into buying a team. So it should not be a problem at all. But there's a question that I think I would like to ask Nakai, that in this particular Olympic year, we are thinking and we believe that hockey is a medal. You may have your or a lot of people may have a different opinion of that. And in wrestling also, we do believe there's a medal. But in both these federations, we are seeing so much of churn. We are seeing so much of problems and issues. So is this really? Let me ask you: is this really going to affect the players at any level? Do they really get affected, or can they be isolated from all of this and just focus on Paris?
Well, the national team would normally not get affected much because all the funding, everything is available, and they just go and attend the camps. However, in case of wrestlers, because some of the top wrestlers are very much part of the protest that was against the administration. So whether they will get enough time to be ready to uh, participate in events, that's going to be a big question. So, however, this churning in sports federations is not new. It is not a unwelcome thing also because the churning happens and somehow or the other after three or four guys, one good productive guy does come into the occupy a good position and he goes ahead with it. The There is a growing appetite for investing in owning teams in Indian sports leagues. That's been growing, but it was a very tough task to get the Hockey India League started when it did initially, and the teams kept dwindling instead of being
Okay.
added up. But since there is a lot of interest coming in and Hockey India is positive, let's welcome it when it happens. It did make a big impact in preparing the Indian youngsters to rub shoulders with the top international players and get the self belief that they can perform as well. Olympics is going to be a tough, getting the last medal would have been easier compared to what's coming forward.
Okay, let's take the last question and let's wrap this up quickly. This is from Mudit Kumar, who's a very strong hockey enthusiast. So his question is that do you think good players become good sports administrators, taking the examples of PT Usha and Yogeshwar Dutt?
No, 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 not at all. You need to have the administrative acumen. I think a good sportsman may even not become a good officiating official, forget about presiding official, National Federation. But PT Usha is just new in the job. I think you'll have to give her more time. Iowa is also is a house on fire more often than it is not. So hockey and Iowa or wrestling, there's not much difference in the administrative aspect. That apart from the fact that Iowa has to answer to IOC and not necessarily always only to the Indian government.
Okay, so that's a wrap, and
Just one
thanks to.
point. I mean, I think if
Okay.
you really want to balance out the whether a player becomes a good admin or not, I think it's better to get a very professional CEO, somebody who can really run the federation from outside, understand the intricacies, and if you can get somebody who's like we are seeing in Odisha, you're seeing so many IS officers who are doing a great job. Most of them are from IIT or Stanford or some things like that. If you can get a good CEO, I think your job is 60% done, and then the rest of the stuff can easily be handled by Dilip Titti and Bolanath or whoever is.
Iowa is
Okay.
trying to get a good CEO. Iowa's efforts to get a CEOs are running into troubled waters.
Chaliya. So that was the last word. Thanks to both of you, and thanks for watching. And we'll be back with more later on how the story develops. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye.